Hello, and welcome to Winning with More Data, How to Manage the Data Deluge Impacting Organizations. Today's webinar is sponsored by Progress Software and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is Scott Becker. I'm from Actual Tech Media, and I'll be your moderator for today's event. Now, before we get to today's great content, we do have a few housekeeping details that will help you get the most out of this session. First off, we want this to be an informative event for you, so we encourage any questions in the questions box in our webinar control panel. Not only will we have team members responding to questions during the live event, but we'll also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the presentation where we'll discuss in greater detail some of the top questions that you ask. That Q&A panel is also the place to let us know about any technical issues you might be experiencing. A browser refresh is going to fix most audio, video, and slide advancement issues, but if that doesn't work, just let us know in the Q&A and we'll provide further technical assistance. Second, in the handout section of your webinar control panel, you'll find that we're offering several resources. I'd especially like to call your attention to 6 links from Progress. There are links to try DataDirect connectors, to learn more about hybrid data pipeline, to learn more about autonomous REST connector, to a video, and to a couple of white papers. There are also links in there to the Guerrilla Guide Book Club, which is Actual Tech Media's printed resources on technology topics, as well as a link to the ATM Event Center, which has our calendar of upcoming events. So I encourage you to access those resources now and share them with your friends and colleagues. Third, at the end of this webinar, we will be awarding a $300 Amazon gift card to one lucky attendee on the live event. Of course, you must be in attendance during the live event to qualify for the prize. The official terms and conditions for today's prize drawing can be found in the handout section. Just scroll to the bottom and you'll find the prize terms and conditions link there. And finally, one of the best benefits of this event is the opportunity to ask a question of our expert presenters. So to help encourage your questions, we have a special additional prize for you. That's another Amazon gift card, this one for $50 for the best question. At the end of the event, we'll look at all the questions, pick out the very best one, and contact that prize winner. And now let's get to today's fantastic content. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to our presenters today. We have Todd Wright, who's Senior Product Marketing Manager at Progress, and Aaron Berg, who is Principal Solutions Engineer at Progress. So I'm going to turn things over to Todd. Todd, take it away.
All right, thanks, Scott, and hello to everyone on the webcast today. As mentioned, my name is Todd Wright from Progress DataDirect, and I'm within the role of product marketing. And joining me today will be Aaron Berg, solutions engineer, who will be discussing a little bit more in depth about our products and actually giving a demo as well. So to really kick things off, let's talk about the state of things today. Probably no shock to anyone on this webcast. We're seeing an explosion in the amount of data that is being produced. From 2 zettabytes in 2010 all the way up to 64.2 in 2020, and projected within just the next 3 years, projected all the way up to 181 zettabytes by 2025. And I think we can all agree this is great news for organizations, especially the ones that depend on data to fuel their BI and analytics programs. And one thing that has been proven over the year is that more data feeding into these programs, being the BI and analytics programs, as I mentioned, it has a direct result in them being more productive, more providing better predictive analysis and better insights, and generally just being more successful. And to really hit this point home, I'm going to steal a quote from somebody else. This is going to be Gartner, in fact. Gartner published this finding about 3 years ago, and it stated, just a 10% increase in data accessibility will result in more than 65 million additional net income for a typical Fortune 100 company. So that really, in my opinion, shows the importance of data, the importance of being able to get to data, and really feeding it into your downstream programs like BI and analytics to really be able to market better and so forth. However, such as life, where there's opportunity, there's also challenges. Recently, Aaron Berg here at Progress, and who will be talking after me, asked this question within an article he wrote. And here it goes. How many times a week does someone in your organization come knocking and say, can I get access to the marketing / sales / production database? And Aaron further elaborated that users today want to connect to data sources to build out dashboards or visualizations for a wide variety of corporate data and analytics initiatives. And others, they're building internal applications which require the integration of these data sources. And regardless of what the request is, it's going to take time to complete and will pose security challenges in terms of managing and tracking what access has been granted and to whom. So beyond the reading of the quote part, so while the challenge of managing the number of requests to the growing number of data sources has always been with us and is growing with the amount of data that is growing, in this day and age, it's not good enough to simply access the data you need. It must also as well, and go through some builds here, it must also address the following concerns. Number one being security lapses that would cause internal vulnerabilities. More and more we're hearing about organizations that are getting really in big trouble, not only from regulators, but from the public as a whole, seeing the security issues that they're having. The second one is being able to address the ability to meet and define compliance standards across the organization. More and more around the world, and it seems like every state now within the United States is really starting to develop and sign into law their own privacy and data security laws. So organizations really need to account to that. And the third one is accounting for the speed and scalability of internal systems. So with that said, and with this in mind, Progress DataDirect has created what is known as the hybrid data pipeline. And for those that know Progress DataDirect, we've been known for years for our robust connectivity to dozens of different data sources. And what's great about the hybrid data pipeline is that Progress takes the data connectivity even a step further by enabling such things as identity management for your data sources. And this really allows you to control data access from a single location. A second one is universal clients for all BI tools using ODBC, JDBC, and OData that really eliminates the need to deploy and update numerous drivers. And the third one, operational visibility into data source utilization. That really lets you not only see who access the data, but what they have accessed. And these three things are really important, not only for the security and compliance matters, but also for ease of use and the time to really be able to do something with your data. And moving on a little bit to this theme, a hybrid data pipeline also eliminates common roadblocks to data connectivity while ensuring trusted security. And this is really being done by addressing security lapses that cause internal vulnerabilities. The second one, controlling access to sensitive data and comply with strict data laws. And thirdly, consistently apply corporate authentication models to any data source, regardless of native support. And I know I covered a lot with the last couple slides, and fear not, Aaron is actually going to be showing a lot of this within his demo to give you a really good look and feel for all the things that I am referencing. So to move on a little bit, I wanted to switch things up a little bit, and I want to talk about another means in which organizations are connecting to data today, and that is via REST APIs. And to really expand on this, what we're seeing is enterprises are really modernizing how they are allowing their customers, either internal or external, to access and leverage their data. And this new approach is just to expose data as services, as opposed to allowing applications or users to directly go to the data source. And this is being done primarily to standardize how data is being accessed from a governance perspective, but also allows for a standard way to consume the data using API calls. And really, there's a lot of benefits to this new approach. And I'll highlight a few here, a few of the benefits here. And first, and this really cannot be overstated, being able to connect any application to any API data source Big benefit of this, it really opens up a vast world of possibilities for empowering your customers and the speed at which they can get to data. Second, zero code necessary. When Aaron shows a bit of our offering known as the autonomous REST connector, you will see how being codeless really expedites the data connection process to make your developers as productive as possible. And this will really allow your customers, the data architects, data analysts, and data scientists within your organization to quickly access and use the data they need. Once again, going on the theme of ease of use and quickness of getting to your data. And the third one is finally building seamless connectivity to is essential to real-time data analysis. The autonomous REST connector from Progress DataDirect, which Aaron will talk about, is not only offers fast and easy API connection, but it also empowers users to query API data really as seamlessly as through a native application. And customers have been raving about, once again, the speed and ease of use of this. So to really wrap things up for my end before I pass it over to Aaron, I mentioned two here so far, the hybrid data pipeline and the autonomous REST connector, but we do also have a variety of different ways that your organization can get to data. Really 5 primary ways are DataDirect connectors that we've had for decades now. Our open access driver SDK, EDI converters, and of course, what we'll be talking about, hybrid data pipeline and autonomous REST connector. And really, if you have any questions beyond the 3, in addition to the hybrid data pipeline and autonomous REST connector, the other 3 on the slide, we would be happy to take your questions after this presentation, and we'd be happy to go a little bit deeper into what they involve. And Aaron, with that said, I'll pass it over to you to go a little bit deeper and show what our product's all about.
All right, well, thank you, Todd. Yeah, I wanted to start out by digging into our autonomous REST connector just a little bit more. The whole idea around the autonomous REST connector is that you're able to use SQL to connect to any REST API. What really makes this connector unique is automates this process. So you can use ODBC or JDBC. You point it towards a REST API, and it can sample that REST API, normalizing it into tables and columns. It handles the authentication, so it supports a wide range of authentication, token-based. It will support HTTP header-based authentication, OAuth, custom auth, so lots of different choices there. It also handles things like pagination and push-down queries, things like that. And then converts that into the request to your API, and then from there we get back the JSON document or even XML, and then convert that back over to SQL. And this is all handled directly in that driver. We have the SQL engine built right into the driver. There's no coding required to do this. And we actually, all that configuration exists in a configuration file. So if there's any customizations that need to be made, they can either be made in our UI or in that REST configuration file. To expand on that, we've actually recently added a wide range of models, or you'll see them called recipes a little bit later on, to connect to data sources out of the box. So for REST sources that you may encounter more frequently, maybe like a BigCommerce or WordPress or Yelp, or some random API out there that brings back brewery information, which we'll take a look at. That all comes right in the box, and that can all be configured through our user interface to the product. You can also use that user interface to build connections to your own REST sources. You'll see we've got this pretty good size list here, and we're constantly adding more. The Arc user interface gives you a very straightforward way to connect to that API. You'll see there in the middle for that endpoint. We're going to analyze it, create all of those tables that you see on the left, and then on the right you see that you have all the different options that you can use, whether it be query parameters, modifying, your pagination, authentication, all of that can be handled there. So let's take a quick look at how that's going to work in real life. Let's move a few things out of the way here. So we're going to take a look at an open brewery type API out there. Basically, this brings back lists of breweries from all over the world. When you go out to the API, you'll see it brings it back as a JSON document, and it actually uses some pagination. So here we aren't actually going to see everything. We're just going to see the initial page of the data. So in order to bring that back with the autonomous REST connector, we're going to install that driver over on a Windows Server here, and then open up that user interface. So here we'll open up the UI, let that load, and you'll see this gives you a number of different options. You can create your own recipe, as I mentioned earlier. You can import a recipe if someone shared a configuration file with you. I'm also add some videos in here to make it a little easier to get started. We actually include this brewery API right inside. Here you'll see that we loaded in that configuration. It already knows the address. And very easily, we can then come down to our configure endpoints. This is going to then sample that off to the left here. And you'll see the full list of data actually coming back from that API. We expand this out, you'll see the table name and all the columns. If we click over to the JSON view, this is the data we saw in the browser coming back directly from the API. Off on the right, we've pre-built into that configuration some query parameters. We've also configured the pagination here as well. If this did require any sort of authentication, that could be handled here also. So once this is created, you can also even modify things. So for instance, if you didn't want to call this breweries, but you wanted to call that table brew, you could do that right here. You could also do the same thing to the table names. So it's going to update that, and then we're going to download the configuration. So here we'll click download, it downloaded the file, and now we're going to create an ODBC connection to it. So let's close this, and we're going to come over to our ODBC administrator. We're going to go down to our autonomous REST connector. Inside here, we're going to create a data source called brew1. We're going to come in and paste into the REST config file path the file that we downloaded. So we'll copy that and paste it into the path here. And we're going to go over to our performance tab and make a quick change to improve our performance a little bit. We set parallel requests to the data source to improve that. We'll do a test connect. You'll see that passed. Select star from brew. Execute. And here you'll see the data comes back in the table. All right, so now that we've created that configuration, we're going to go in to create the actual DSN inside of the ODBC administrator. Here we're going to go into system, we're going to add the DSN, choose autonomous REST connector. Inside here, you'll see that we can actually use the data source that we created. So we'll create brew1, and here we're going to use our config file that we saved from there. We'll put that into our config path. We're going to go over to our performance tab. We're going to increase our read ahead to improve that number of parallel requests that we can make to the data source. I'm going to go ahead and click save, and we'll click test and make sure that works. That shows that we made the connection. Once we have that done, then we're going to be able to close this and go into Power BI and actually bring that data in directly. So here, we go into Power BI, we'll do a get data. We're going to choose our autonomous REST connector, this connector was installed into Power BI. This allows you to use direct query as well as import the data into Power BI. The direct query being nice that you have that single source of truth that's always going to be current. So here we'll put in the name of our DSN. You'll see here, there's our brew. It's going to load that data in. We'll let that do its evaluation here real quick. Then we click load, and it'll bring that into Power BI over here on the right. You'll see that it's going to create the model, and then you'll see it start to populate over here. Once it brings that data in, I'll go ahead and expand it out, and then we'll be able to create a map actually. So here, I'm going to expand out this. We're going to create a map and show those breweries on the map. So in this case, I'm going to take my latitude here, my longitude. You'll see it start to build out over there. We'll take the name, add that to our tooltips, and we're going to take the phone number as well. And maybe I'll take the city. So with all of those in place, then we can come over here and it's going to bring that data back from the API, and you'll see it will populate as it builds that map. So we'll give it just a second here. Once that builds, we'll be able to zoom in and you can actually see all of these breweries showing up around the world. And as we hover over those, you can actually see the data coming back directly from that API. And we did all this without having to write any code. So all of this was done through ODBC, making the connection to the REST endpoint. So it's a very easy way to get that data into the analytics tool of your choice. Now let's switch back over here to our PowerPoint and talk about one other product. So the hybrid data pipeline is our lightweight data gateway. And this really lets you very easily connect to data sources, whether they be on-prem or in the cloud, and then access them using a standard set of APIs. So you could connect to them with a single ODBC or JDBC driver, or you can even REST enable these different data sources and use a tool like we're using in Power BI. You could use Tableau. You can even use Excel or any other tools that support OData. So it makes it very easy to access a wide range of data sources. It's especially nice when you may have data coming from different databases that you need to share with your BI team. Couple use cases that we commonly see for this would be the external data gateway, where you may have hosted data that you want to share with your customers for consumption in a secure fashion. Everything goes over HTTPS. And another might be that internal data hub. So you have a wide range of data sources internally for your analytics team. They need to connect to those. You don't want to necessarily share specific database credentials with everyone. Instead, hybrid data pipeline supports its own authentication, whether it be built-in authentication, LDAP authentication, OIDC for OData. So a wide range of choices there to centralize how all of your users can connect. And then another one would be our cloud to ground access. So if you have data that you don't have direct network access to, maybe it's behind a firewall somewhere, it's a very easy way to use a small client that we provide. Think of it like a Dropbox or OneDrive client. Uses outbound SSL and allows you to very easily connect to data without having to open up any ports, having to set up a VPN or an SSH tunnel. When you take a look at how this lays out, you'll see the hybrid data pipeline runs on Linux. It can be installed in the cloud or on-prem, wherever you choose. It supports high availability, so you can have one or multiple nodes of the hybrid data pipeline. Those run behind a load balancer of your choice. They can connect directly to data, whether it be the data sources that we support directly in the product, or even third-party JDBC drivers can be dropped in. We also do support the autonomous REST connector on this product, so you can even connect to REST APIs like we were just looking at in the prior demo. On the front end, you're going to use a standard set of APIs to access that data. So that would be ODBC, JDBC, or OData to connect in with the BI tools or whichever tools, even ETL tool of your choosing to access that data. We also can connect out to the cloud. So if you want to bring Salesforce data in, we can give you that ODBC or JDBC or even REST access to that. We also can then reach on-prem. So using that OPC or that on-premises connector, We're making that secure connection to data sources that aren't local to Hybrid Data Pipeline, but you can still connect to them just as if they were. Really, just to come back, the big advantages to this is you are limiting the direct access to your database. We have throttling and additional security controls that are in place, as well as logging of the SQL that's issued to those databases. So it makes it a lot easier to control what's happening with your databases. And then we also help you decouple the code. So you don't need to worry about, if you change what your backend data source is, it's easier to convert those users on the front end. They're still using the same driver or the same OData calls to those backend sources. Within the product, everything's encrypted, SSL, TLS and transport, AES 256 at rest. We do support LDAP, as I mentioned, and actually even support a Java plugin framework to extend the authentication model if you have something custom. We support multi-tenancy and IP whitelisting, high availability through the multiple nodes, and then everything can be configured through management APIs with our Hybrid Data Pipeline. So there's actually even more controls than you'll see in the user interface. So it's very easy to integrate it into your existing solutions. And I always come back to this, and it's kind of Progress's thing. It's all about the standards: ODBC, JDBC, OData, support of third-party JDBC drivers, and then also that REST access, so you get SQL to those REST APIs. So let's take a quick look at how this works. So I have a Hybrid Data Pipeline server that's running up in AWS. We're going to log into it with our demo account. Here, once we log in, you're going to see that we have multiple tenants. Each of these tenants have their own users. And those users are controlled by different roles. So you can create roles for your users specific to what types of data they want to access, whether it be, or what APIs you want them to use. So ODBC or JDBC access, OData access, whether you want to have admin access or even access into this web UI. And then those users have their associated data sources. You can share data sources between users. You can create them at the tenant level and share them with users in the tenant as well. In this case, I've actually created a connection here to a SQL server. This is actually using our on-premises agent to connect to that database. I put in the information to get there, and I click Test Connect. You'll see that we've successfully connected. And then just by doing that, we have that ODBC and JDBC access, but you can actually use our HTTPS drivers to do that. I want to show you, though, how we OData enable that. So here, we actually have a tool built right into the product that will let you edit that Odata mapping. So it's going to go out, show you the tables, show you the columns that are associated with that, and let you choose which ones you want to Odata enable. With that in place, you then get this Odata URI. That Odata URI is up here, and you'll see just by calling that, we now have the two different tables that we want to bring back. So for instance, if I bring in albums, you'll see that it's going to go out and bring that data back as a JSON document using OData. And then it's very easy to then take that OData URL. So we'll come back and copy that. And then we're going to go to a product, say like Tableau, and visualize that. So here we can go into OData, drop that path right in, put it in our credentials. And these are the credentials to Hybrid Data Pipeline, not to the backend data source. And you'll see that we can very easily drag these over and go over to our worksheet. Here we'll have our title. Let's throw those up under rows, and we'll tie that to our names. So now you can see the titles, the artist names. So very quickly, you can bring the data in from whatever sources you've shared through Hybrid Data Pipeline into the analytics tool of your choosing. So with that, I think I will go ahead and send it back over to Scott.
All right, great. Hey, those are really powerful demos, Aaron. I was trying to screenshot that map of breweries, and I'm wondering, can I get a cut of that list for the Mid Atlantic?
Of course, I've even tinkered with a little iPhone app to show that for my wife when we go places.
Very nice. And Todd, nice overview at the beginning. Are you ready for some questions too?
Yeah, let's go.
Super. All right. And I did put up a poll here for everybody, just about any additional information you'd like about the Progress software solution. But let's get into questions here. So the first one, they're asking, does hybrid data pipeline bypass our firewall?
I can take that one.
Sure.
No, actually, the nice thing with hybrid data pipeline is that it works within the context of your security, and actually can give you some extra security because you have the extra layer of authentication there, as well as its additional use of IP whitelisting inside of the product. So if you're using the on-premises connector, the way that works is it actually works a lot like a Dropbox or a OneDrive client on the remote location. So it uses like outbound SSL to maintain that connection. But unlike having to open ports, in which case you're opening up your surface area for attack a lot more, we're only allowing the proprietary communications specifically for the database access. So definitely not trying to circumvent any sort of security.
Okay, super. This next question is about the use cases. What are some of the most common use cases for your platform?
Yeah, Aaron, I can take this one. Pretty much what you saw from our presentation is a lot of talk about BI and analytics. And the majority of our use cases are customers looking to access data that they've never had access to before, new data sources. And I think what we have really found out, just the industry as a whole, is within the last 10, 15 years, to really get a better feel and a better results from analytics. You really don't want to, or you could, but it's not really about developing newer algorithms or better algorithms all the time. It's about feeding more data into those algorithms, in those analytics programs or AI programs. And from what we've learned and others have said, is the more data that you're feeding into those algorithms, the better results and the better insights that you're going to get from your analytics program. So we're really hearing that from our customers as well. Really need data from the likes of Twitter and some of the newer MarTech type of data sources to really try to see if there's answers within their customer base that they might not be aware of at this point. And Aaron, I know you're in the field a lot more than I am. Do you concur with that, or do you hear some other use cases that might might strike?
Definitely agree.
All right, Scott, we're in agreement on that one.
I definitely agree with you there, Todd. Those are a lot. Yep.
All right, super. And that leads to another question. I often wonder, like, what sort of role in an organization tends to make the purchasing decision on your solution, for what kinds of problems, and then who tends to use it? Because it looks like it's pretty user friendly, as far as, maybe people who aren't, hardcore developers might be able to do something with it. So what are sort of the roles that you guys serve?
I would say some of the ones that I've seen are data analysts, data administrator. As far as the purchasing, the ones that are spending the money on our tools, it doesn't go too high up. I'd say like IT director, maybe not really C-level for the most part. But yeah, a lot of our users are the ones that are fully engaged with the day-to-day data practice, the practitioners, so to speak, and are the ones that are either using the data for analytics or possibly operational use cases. And Aaron,
Okay.
I'll let you speak to this one as well.
Yeah, I mean, we speak to a lot of times the initial inquiries will come in from folks actually more on the either development side working on a project, or on like the data security side where they're looking to put the extra layer between their databases and create a data hub to control access a little bit more granularly.
Interesting. Okay, super. This next question comes from Jadip, and he's asking, if an organization is just using SQL Server and a bunch of Excel and text files, is there something for your offering in that sort of an environment?
Sure, I can take this. It actually ties a little bit with that last comment about security, in that oftentimes in those environments where you're giving people direct access to the database, I mean, you're having to manage that at the database level. So it's a little bit more risky there in terms of what they can get to. And putting this in front of that gives you the extra layer of control, especially by using OData. So you can actually limit with OData the tables and columns that are presented to a specific user. And those users can be controlled directly in Hybrid Data Pipeline. As local users, you can use LDAP and integrate with your AD. With OData, you can even use OpenID Connect. So it gives you some additional options there. It also gives you some throttling controls to limit the the traffic that's going to your database and help protect those back-end systems. And the other nice thing is if you do move off of SQL Server or bring other databases into the mix, it's a very easy way to present those to your users without having to distribute other drivers. They would be either using the standard HTTP drivers that connect to any of the sources, or they could be using OData, in which case there's no driver required at all.
Okay, great. Hey, and Aaron, you were talking a little bit about I think Azure AD there. And Vince is asking, for an organization that already uses Azure AD for giving users database access, how does your tool differ?
I think that really is that it's that extra layer of security. The other nice thing is if you do need to share that data outside of your network, you're doing it over HTTPS or connection. You're not having to open up like a SQL port or set up a VPN or anything like that to get access to that data. So it gives you a more secure way to share that data with others.
Okay, super. Next question comes from Dick. He's asking, so many vendors are mentioning REST APIs these days. What are the features of RESTful APIs that make them so much worth talking about?
Yeah, Aaron, I would say ease of connection first of all. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Ease connection. I would just say they're very lightweight and they're standards based. So from a development point of view, you're working with HTTP, you're working with JSON, XML, things that today's developers are comfortable, experienced working with. You're not having to build like wire protocol connections back to data sources or do things more custom to each specific data source. It also gives you some extra security and that you're able to maybe massage that data in between where you're creating the REST API and the data source because you're separating that presentation from the data. Anything else you have for that, Todd?
Aaron, that was perfect. Nothing I can add to that.
All right, great. Cool. So the next thing I actually wanted to ask you, you guys had a couple of nice slides showing all the connections that you have and all the database platforms you support. And then, Power BI obviously played a big role in the demo. But, I'm wondering, what are your customers most commonly using your products with? Are there sort of a handful of platform scenarios that are the most common?
Would this be like in reference to Salesforce?
It's a wide range. Like
yeah.
Okay.
You're thinking like the analytics side. So, and I think that's the key is, there's a lot of different ways that people use our products, whether it's taking their data, like their SQL Server data and converting it to OData so that it can be consumed as external data inside of Salesforce using Salesforce Connect. That's a very common use case for our product. But then also, all the popular BI tools are very common as well, especially for that data hub use case where people need to provide data internally to their BI teams, and data scientists is a way to do that. So really depends. We have people do this on our OEM team where they're actually using it to share data with their customers, and then their customers want access using standards-based tools. So I think that's really the key, and what we like to focus on is being standards-based. It's really what Progress and DataDirect is about.
Excellent. Great. And by the way, Vince, who asked the question about the Azure AD, says thanks. You answered his question. And Dick, who asked about the REST APIs, says great, thank you. So nice job there. Thank you. And this next question is coming in. Will this connect with our home-built tools as well?
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem at all.
Sure.
As long as the tools are compatible with ODBC and JDBC and OData, shouldn't be a problem at all.
Okay, great. Question from Jack. He's wondering, in the event of data corruption, how does one roll back transactions?
Yeah, so that's actually one of the nice things about our product is that it's a live connection back to your data source. So we're not actually storing the data in the hybrid data pipeline. It's a single source of truth. So it's all being handled. Any sort of rollback on that connection will be handled by your backend database.
All right, excellent. Well, I think we've gotten through most of the audience questions here. Thanks to everybody for sending those questions in. And Todd, is there a good way if somebody wants to get started with Progress software or find out more? What do you recommend?
Yeah. So the great thing about Progress is really not only the easy use of our product, but also that we give you the opportunity to test out all our connectors. Simply as easy as going to our website. You can do a 30-day trial download of our software and really see if it's for you. And of course, no obligation whatsoever when you get to try it.
Excellent. And just a quick reminder. So we're coming up on time, but there were all those resources in the handouts as well. So be sure to grab those now if you were interested in any of those. But before we wrap up here, but Todd, Aaron, thanks so much for all these great answers in the Q&A, for the presentation, for the demos. This has been a fantastic session. Really appreciate you guys coming on.
Yep. And thanks for all the questions, everyone. Appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Yeah, thank you everyone for attending.
All right. And the final thing here today is the $300 Amazon gift card prize drawing. And the winner of that gift card is Anton Preheim from Minnesota. So congratulations, Anton. We'll be in touch to get you your card. And with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank Progress Software for making this event possible. And thanks as always to everyone for attending and for your great questions. That concludes today's event. Have a great rest of your day.